Hi folks, welcome back. So in the previous video, we talked about introduction to Helm charts, and then we created our first Helm chart, and then we play around a bit about how you can do multiple releases, and then increase, I mean the upgrade your Helm chart, and then basically roll back whatever the release you did, and all those things we have understood in the previous session. So now let's go to one step further, and then we'll try to understand what is the usage of this value.yaml, and also we'll try to understand about this Helm objects, built-in objects. So without wasting the time, let's revisit our the example whatever we created in the first video, which is like the my chat, and inside that my chat we have this templates directory and then this chat.yaml. So now what we will do is let's create a file called as value.yaml. So if you see originally when we created a chat, if I go up, I think there you go. So originally, it had a file called as value.yaml, which we have removed because that is what we wanted to explain it separately. And then it also had this chats directory and then the template within which all the definitions chat.yaml, which you already know. So now what we will do is let's create this file value.yaml. Okay. Now, let's try to modify the template definition of a chat. So let's go back to the official documentation, and then there is a field called as built-in objects, and then there is a value.file under the chat template guide. So first, let's go to your values.yaml file, and let's try to understand how you can do. So in the context of our example, what we will do is let's go to our example, and then go to the templates, and then you have your deployment.yaml, right? So here, if you see here, the name of the deployment is Nginx, right? So now also the number of replicas, right? It is one. Now I'll just pick up this particular line. Okay, I'll go back, and I want to control, I want to control the number of replicas which are releasing in chat through my own way. I don't want to, it to be always one. I want to control it based on my requirement. So what I'll do, I'll go to this value.yaml, and then I'll define this variable, okay, replicas. So what I'll do, I'll just change this 1 to 2. Okay. Now, if you just change it, will it work? No. For that, in order to ensure that whatever you define inside this value.yaml has to be referenced from your template, you need to give that reference. For that, what you have to do is inside this deployment.yaml, if you go to the official documentation, you have given an example how to use that. So if you want put it a variable and then to reference it, how you can reference is, for example, if you see here they have just defined one variable, okay, inside a value.yaml as food drink is coffee. In our example, replica is equal to 2. So how they are referenced, in this case they are using the config map. So ignore this, which I'm going to explain in the built-in objects. So just focus on this particular stuff. So what they're doing is whatever the value file you have, the value object which you have defined inside the value.yaml can be referenced like this. So whenever I give a drink, right, it should reference it. The value should be referenced from this variable which is defined inside value.yaml. So let's pick this. Okay, let's go here. Okay, now paste this. Now in our case, what is this? This is replicas, not this one. If you see here in the value.yaml, what we have defined, maybe I'll list it out and I'll show it to you. So you can see here, I've defined a variable inside this value.yaml as replicas. If you want to give just a rep also, okay, let's do that one only. So what I'll do, I'll just keep it as rep. Okay. Now what I have to do, inside templates directory, deployment.yaml, I have to change it to rep, because so now whenever I give the number of replicas, it doesn't always do one here, because this replicas is now controlled by a file called as value.yaml. So now what we will do, since the Helm is already, let's try to do Helm list. It's showing the revision 3. Okay, so let's check. Okay, so now what we will do, we will try to upgrade this Helm chart, so that we will come to know. Now that I have modified my chart, what I'll do, I will go to chart.yaml. Okay, so this is my existing information in the chart. So now if I go to charts.yaml, I will ensure that this release, okay, is 1.3.0. Okay, and in the description as well, I'll give my first Helm chart with Nginx and value.yaml, an additional description. That's all. It's modified now. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll come back. So this is where my chart is sitting. Now Helm upgrade hyphen install. What is my release name? This is my release name. And then dot slash my chart, and then hyphen version is equal to 1.3.0. Let's give a couple of seconds. I have purposefully not supplied. I just want to show you what will happen now. Now if you check kubectl get parts, you can see here it has increased to 2. So even if you don't supply by default, if you keep that value that file right, it will automatically pick it. So you can see the number of replicas have been changed to 2. So now what I'll do is, I will do one thing. I will go inside my chat. Okay. Now this value.yaml, I'll just create one more directory called values. Okay, which is a custom directory. Now I'll move this value.yaml to values. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll go. What I'll do, I'll go inside this value.yaml. Okay, and I will change the number of replicas from 2 to 3. Okay, I'll come back. Now so currently what is the revision? It is 4. Okay, now I'll do the same thing. I will do my Helm upgrade. I'm not modifying the chat, but let's modify. So what I'll do, I will change it from 1.3 to 4. Okay, so now I'll come back one step. Now let me install 1.4. Let's give a couple of seconds. Okay, so now what we will do, we will check the pod status. You will see that there is only one pod. So now what happened just here? So I was mentioning you that when you create a Helm chart, by default it will create a chart.yaml, value.yaml, and then the templates directory. Within templates directory, you will give all the definition, and within value.yaml, you will give the custom values, and then all those things we discussed, right? So now, even though we increased the number of replicas from 1 to 3. In earlier scenario, even though I did not reference my value.yaml separately, it still worked because it was present in that particular default folder. Even if you don't mention, it referred. In my example, it did not because I moved it to a separate folder. So it is unable to find any value.yaml, which is a default value.yaml, and it is unable to do. Now what I need to do? Now what I need to do to make it work is hyphen hyphen r hyphen hyphen f. Okay. Now within my chat, okay, I have values file. Now if I give explicitly this, it should work. Let's give a couple of seconds. There you go. Now if I check my pod status, you will see that the number of replicas has increased to 3. I hope I'm clear with this. So now what we will do is let's try to play around with a little bit of the Helm objects here. So let me go to my charts. Let's try to understand what are these Helm chart objects. So if you go built-in objects, so objects are passed into the template from the template engine. See, one thing you need to understand, entire this Helm everything is written in Go language. Okay, so it's like has some built-in objects like the release name. So if you see here currently I have explicitly mentioned my release name, right? So if I uh, you know if I need to put this inside my deployment name, so deployment name itself, it ensures that even though you don't supply, it will install that one only. So what I meant is, so let me go there and explain, then I think you will get more picture. So before that, let's try to understand what are all the different sort of built-in objects. So if you see here, release is one of the top level object that you can access in your template. The release itself has several objects inside which is like release namespace is upgrade. If it is set to true, then current operation will upgrade. If it is set to is install, then it is going to install it. Revision, what is the revision of your release, and then service. Okay, what is the service name for this release, like that. And then you have these values. Okay, that is also built in objects. Okay, and then the chart name, if you give the chart version, if you give whatever you give within the chart.yaml, that is also it is able to access. So all the available fields, always you can go back and check it here. You have for the particular chart. So in my example, which I gave the explanation about API version, the name, version, and then what else? I think the description. So if you see here, apart from that, you have hell lot of information here. So a typical chart.yaml will consisting of these many objects or these many fields basically. So like that, there are many. You can always, go back and see like capabilities. That is also one of the object. It has these many capabilities, like capabilities dot helm version dot git commit template dot name template dot base path. These are like built-in objects which has, in detailed stuffs. Okay, always, you can go back and refer this. So I'll try to, explain how you can use this in a particular Helm chart. So if I go to Helm chart here. So if I have this, okay, let's come back. Let me go to template. Now I'll go to deployment.yaml. Now what I'll do, I will change this app version, right? I mean the deployment name, right? This one with release name. Okay. That means the deployment name is not going, I mean it's not going to be Nginx anymore. It will be with whatever the chat which you are going to release, right? That name it is going to contain. Okay. So not only that, even your app name, that is also I want to keep it with your release name. Means everything has to match, right? Your deployment name and app specification, even your label as well. So I will change that as well. Okay. So now this is one thing. Also, we will introduce one more thing. Okay, we'll introduce the namespace field here. And if you come back, you have one more stuff here called release namespace, right? So we'll copy the same thing. In place of name, we'll replace it with namespace. Okay. So now what I did, now I have introduced, you guys to release name, the built-in objects. So what I'm doing is now I'm ensuring that my deployment name always matches with my release name. Also, whatever the release namespace which I supply during the Helm install or Helm upgrade, always, my chart should release with that namespace only. So that is what I'm going to do here. So let's try to see if that works. So what I'll do now, since I modified my chart, I will go and change the chart information. I mean the version information. I'll change it to 5 and I'll give value.yaml slash built-in objects, just as description. Okay. Now what I'll do, I will just displace the chart information. Okay. Now if I go back to my Helm upgrade command, so here what I will do is, so if you see here, this is my release name. Now if you see in the earlier scenario, in the earlier revisions, which is like revision 5, I think, the deployment name started with Nginx, right? Because that is what it is mentioned inside your deployment.yaml. Now what I'm doing is I'm enforcing it in such a way that whatever the release name I give, that it should go and replace, right? Even namespace as well. If you just give namespace is equal to, what I will do, maybe I'll give the namespace name as app. Is my namespace exist currently? No, it doesn't exist. So for that, what I'll do, I'll supply one more stuff, hyphen hyphen create hyphen namespace. So now what it does is it will create a namespace called app, and then it will use that namespace. This namespace, whatever I supply, right, that is what it is going to use in the release namespace field. So let's try to see if this works or not. Let's give a couple of seconds. Okay, now first let's see whether the namespace is created. It is. Now what we will do, we will do Helm list. There you go. It is 6 now. Now what we will do, kubectl get all hyphen n app. So there you go. You can see here the difference is very clear. Earlier when you displayed your deployment, where is that example? There you go. Just an Nginx. Now you see Nginx hyphen chat. That means your deployment name as well as per your release name, and your deployment namespace, whatever it is, that is also this. So now for that, in order to see in detail, always you can go back. Okay, and check this. There you go. So if you see here, so what is the release name? I mean, this is the one deployment name. It is changed as per your release name. So that's very clear here. Meta.helm.s, it's completely maintained by this, and the release namespace is app. So that is what is present inside this app section. Even the labels everywhere it is changed, and the number of replicas you are controlling it from your value.yaml. That's how it is. I hope I'm clear about the aspects of built-in objects. Now this is about like the you know how you can use the built-in objects, and how you can use the value.yaml. So let's go one step further. and the actual motto, whatever we wanted to achieve in the first step, like separating I mean, having the same deployment installed in a dev namespace and then in a QA environment, which is like in pure namespace, and in the production environment, which is in prod namespace. So let's do the same thing. Now for that, what I'll do is I will go back to my chat. Okay. Now I'll go inside the values directory. I will copy this value into dev underscore value start YAML, and then I'll copy the same thing into QA underscore values dot YAML. I'll copy the same thing into prod underscore values dot YAML. Okay. Now forget about this value dot YAML. I'll remove it. Now I have three copies. Now what I'll do inside dev, I'll ensure I have only one replica, and then inside QA, I have two replicas. Inside prod, I'll ensure it has three replicas. Okay. So now I have three copies. So now, I mean, can I change only this? No, I want to change few more stuffs. So what I'll do, I'll go back to my templates. So here I have my deployment.yaml. Now, is it only the replica you want to control, or you want to control something else as well? So what I'll do, I will introduce the resource section here. Okay, so let's quickly do that. Now I'll go to the official documentation of Kubernetes. Okay, and here I'll go to documentation resource. If you go here, resource management for pod, you will come across with an example, which is basically this. I'll pick it from there. Now I'll go to the deployment definition. Or why should I go to deployment definition? I'll go to my or else yeah, better I'll put it here only. If I go under resource section, okay, let me do the indentation properly. The resource request. There you go. I'm just setting up, the CPU in terms of a request 250 milli, and then the limitation maximum it can utilize is 500 milli, and the memory is 64 milli. I'm starting with, and I mean it's a 64, megabyte, and then it may go up to 128. That should be, I think, more than enough. Now what I'll do, so now I have modified my deployment definition as well. So now if you see here, okay, so this is what it is. Now let's play around a little bit about this resource section. Okay, so now what I'll do, Okay, now what I'll do, I'll take the same resource, okay, and I will go back to the values.yaml, and here let me go to dev, okay. Now let me remove all the spaces. So I'm just making, indentation. Since these are, YAMLs, we have to be very careful with this. Even a small mistake, it won't work. So I'm just putting it properly. There you go. So under the resource section, I have requests, and then I have the limits. Okay, so that's good. Now, if you see here, since I have defined this inside my value.yaml, now what I'll do, I'll go back to my templates, and here inside my deployment.yaml, I need not to hard code it because these values I'm going to change it as per the dev, QA and all those requirement. So what I'll do now is I will pick it. So this is like starts with resource, inside that request, inside that memory. Similarly, if you want to reference like memory, similarly if you want to reference a CPU, it should be like resources dot request dot CPU. So what I'll do now is here I'll come down, and here I will remove this. I'll just copy this value example from here and I'll paste it. Now let me write this. Now value dot, so it is starting with resource dot, I want memory, right? Request dot resource dot request dot memory. So that is what is going to give you that value. Similarly here, what I'll do, I'll copy paste the same thing, and here I'm going to change it from memory to CPU. Similarly here as well, same thing. So here rather than request, it's a limit, right? So how did I define? It's resource dot limits dot memory. So resource dot limits dot memory. Copy paste from here. Similarly here, values dot resource dot limits dot CPU. That's all. So now if you see the CPU requests and memory, I mean CPU request, sorry, the resource request and limits, both for CPU and memory, it's coming directly from your value.yaml, which is going to differ from your dev to QA to production. Now what we will do, we will first go and delete all the existing stuff because I'm just running with one node. I don't want to end up with a resource issue. So I'll just delete the namespace which I created and the corresponding app as well. So that means it is deleted everything now. Even Helm list, I'll just do complete uninstallation of this. So how to uninstall this particular chat? So let's learn that. So Helm uninstall. and then the chat name. That is what is going to uninstall your particular Helm chat. That's it. Now, if you give Helm list, you're not going to get anything. So what we have done is we have modified our deployment definition, and then let's do one more thing. Service, right? So here as well, service name. This should match your release name. So for that, I'll go to the definition and I'll pick this. I hope you're getting the concept of release name, how to use it and all. And then that should be good. The selector app name also should match, right? Or else it will fail. So this also is release name. This label as well will give release name only. That's good. So we have modified all these things. Now let's go to our value.camel. We have modified our dev, right? Now we'll copy the dev to QA, copy the dev to prod so that I need not to redefine the resource section everywhere. Now in dev, one is sufficient, and maybe this, what I'll do, CPU, I don't want to give this much. I'll do one thing. I'll just give 100 milli. I think that is more than sufficient. And here maximum I'll give 200 milli. And the replicas, one is more than sufficient. So if I give QA replica, I'll change it from 1 to 2. And CPU request, what I'll do, I'll make it 150. And then the limit, I will make it as 200. Now in prod, I'll increase the replicas from, again, I'll just keep it 2 only in the prod as well. And same, I'll just keep, 150 only here as well. Maybe the memory, we'll change it 130 or 138 maybe. And just play around with the number. The idea here is to just demonstrate that these numbers can be modified and it can be used as per your environment request. So now comes the beautiful part. So I'll come back one directory. So here I'll go to chat. Now I'll give maybe a version as 2, 2.0.0, and then this is my Helm chat with built-in objects and multi. Oh my God, spelling. Multiple environments. Okay, all right. Now here is one interesting thing. So since I've deleted, I mean, removed the entire Helm chat, still, what I can do is I can use this Helm upgrade command itself. So what this command does. So if this chat is not installed already, it is going to install. If it is already installed, it is going to upgrade. So I would always recommend use upgrade hyphen hyphen install only, so that if it is already installed, as I said, it's going to just upgrade. If it is not upgraded, I mean, if it is not installed, it is going to first install. So I always recommend use this so that you need not to separately write Helm statement for upgrade. So again, my release name would be Nginx chat, create namespace. Now, okay, I'm releasing first this in dev. So what I'll do, I'll keep this. I'll first create a namespace called dev. That's why I'm giving this statement hyphen hyphen create namespace, and then I'll use that namespace dev, and using this one only. and the version I'm going to use is, I think it was 2.00, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 2.00. Oh man, 2.0.0. Now here, since I'm doing it in dev, I will use dev underscore value dot YAML. So let's give couple of seconds. As you can see, release it does not exist, so that's why it is installing it now. That's it, it is done. Now if you do Helm gist, you will not see anything because I've given it in a namespace called dev. So first let's see whether it has created a namespace called dev. As you can see, it has created a namespace called dev. So now if you do kubectl get all hyphen n dev, it will show you everything about this release. So basically your deployment and then your service and then your pods. That's good, right? Now what we will do, we'll do the same thing. Helm list hyphen n dev. Excuse me. So as you can see here, this is my Helm chart, release name, and in the release namespace, revision, all those things. Now what we will do, we will do the same thing for QA, and in QA, I'm going to release this in QA namespace. And what I'll do, my chart name, I'll modify it with nginx chart hyphen QA. So let's give a couple of seconds. There you go. It's done. Now what I'll do, I'll just list it. So if you see here, it has created a namespace called QA. Now if I go and give it QA, it is giving the full information about QA. Now what I'll do, I'll give it hyphen QA. You will see the difference in the chart name and the number of replicas. You can see here number of replica, the chart name is preceded with hyphen QA. I mean, sorry, attached hyphen QA at the end for the particular chart. And then you can see the number of replicas has two. That's the beauty. That's the beauty. This is how you can control the deployment in different environments without being modified much. That's the beauty of Helm chart. I hope you guys are clear about this. So now finally let's do the same thing for prod. So it would be prod.yaml, and then I will release it in prod, and my release name I will change it to prod. Let's give a couple of seconds. So let's give prod. There you go. It's pending because as I said, I'm just running with one Kubernetes node. I think it's a resource crunch. Yeah, it's a resource crunch. So what I will do in order to bring this prod application up and running, I will delete uh, the QA namespace. I mean the QA Helm chat. So what I'll do, Helm uninstall the chat name hyphen in QA. When I do uninstall of the QA, automatically production will come up because as I said, there's a resource crunch, right? That it is going to solve. There you go. Yeah, that's the typical, Kubernetes resource issue. So that's all about how you can use the value.yaml and with that how you can play around with the values and then okay, let's try to summarize what we have learned in this particular session. So in this session we try to go one step further with a Helm chart where we have customized our Helm chart with using value.yaml. We learned how we can modify the different segments inside our deployment and the service with some of the built-in objects like the release name, release namespace, and all those things. So there is a big bunch of built-in objects. I just showed you some of the stuff. You can always go back and visit the documentation and try to understand what are all the other versions. Some of the popular ones which I have showed here, and then we understood how I can achieve the same skeleton can be reused to deploy it in multiple environments. So using the custom value.yaml, and I also demonstrated the behavior of value.yaml, which is like the default value.yaml, and how the custom value.yaml will behave and the default value.yaml will behave. That also I demonstrated. So I hope I am clear with the aspects. If you have any sort of doubts and you need any sort of clarification, feel free to put a message on the channel. I'm happy to answer those because that is where the concepts will be cleared in detail. And in the next session we will be touching some of the further concepts in the Helm and all. So until then, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe to my channel and support me. See you in next video. Thank you.